Diego Maradona wasn't just a footballer. For millions, he became a form of popular religion, a kid from poverty who reached the top and made an entire country feel seen. His story is the classic hero myth: supernatural talent, an impossible rise, and a collective hunger for miracles. But myths come with a hidden clause. The same love that lifts you can turn into a demand you can never satisfy. Because once a person becomes a symbol, people stop allowing them to be fragile. They don't want the human, they want the guarantee. And the higher the pedestal, the more violent the fall feels. Maradona's genius on the pitch created moments that looked unreal, as if the rules didn't apply to him. Off the pitch, that expectation followed him like a shadow. Always deliver, always shine, always be larger than life. Fame doesn't just bring applause. It brings access, money, doors opening, constant attention, and a swarm of people who want proximity to power. This episode isn't built to moralize. It's built to reveal the mechanism: how idol worship can become a prison, how nobody says no becomes a lifestyle, and how the world can end up consuming a person's highs and lows like episodes in a never-ending series. Because the question isn't whether Maradona was great. The question is what happens when greatness becomes a cage, and everyone around you benefits from keeping the cage locked. That cage often looks like celebration at first. Global fame arrives with extremes: wealth, privilege, nonstop praise, and the sense that rules are for other people. Over the years, Maradona's life was also marked by widely reported struggles with excess and addiction, and what matters here is the environment that surrounds those struggles. When someone becomes an untouchable idol, a strange economy forms around them. People profit from closeness: friends, fixers, advisors, opportunists, entire circles that grow dependent on the myth continuing. In that world, saying no isn't just difficult, it's risky. Because limits threaten access. And access is money. So bad decisions don't simply happen. They're facilitated. The culture of constant permission, constant yes, turns temptation into routine. And routine becomes identity. What looks like freedom from the outside can feel like being carried by a crowd you can't step away from, because stepping away would mean disappointing the believers. Meanwhile, the public hunger doesn't slow down. They want the hero to be magical, but also human enough to be entertaining. They want miracles on Sunday and a headline on Monday. And the media ecosystem learns quickly what keeps attention locked: not stability, but chaos. Not quiet recovery, but dramatic swings. This is how the cycle starts to build: genius, pressure, excess, collapse, followed by a comeback everyone can cheer for. And each comeback resets the story just enough for the machine to keep running. Over time, the fall stops being a single moment and becomes a pattern. Each scandal turns into a headline. Each relapse becomes spectacle. Each return becomes hope. It's a roller coaster with millions of passengers, and most of them don't realize they're part of the engine. Because the psychology of fame is brutal. Once the hero becomes a symbol, he loses the right to be weak. Weakness isn't treated as a human reality. It's treated as a plot twist. And when the symbol tries to escape, to rest, to recover, to disappear, the world pulls him back. Sponsors still want the glow. Cameras still want the frame. Fans still want the feeling they had when the hero made the impossible look easy. The result is a constant tug-of-war between the person and the myth. The person needs limits. The myth survives on limitlessness. And power complicates everything, because power attracts enablers. In a nobody says no atmosphere, the line between loyalty and exploitation can blur. People convince themselves they're helping, while still feeding what keeps them close. And the idol himself can start to believe the mythology. If the world treats you as exceptional, you may start living as if consequences are negotiable. That's not a character flaw so much as a predictable effect of worship without boundaries. The tragedy is that the public often reads the chaos as entertainment, while the human body and mind absorb it as damage, quietly, daily, and permanently. Eventually, the damage shows up everywhere: health, relationships, stability, reputation. The same charisma that once united crowds can isolate the person carrying it, because real accountability becomes rare when everyone is afraid to be the one who ruins the magic. And still, the story keeps pulling people in, because it's deeply human. Greatness and self-destruction in the same frame. A man who could make a stadium feel like one heartbeat, and then struggle to protect his own life from the consequences of limitless access. This is where idol worship becomes most dangerous. It trains the audience to celebrate extremes. The world doesn't reward balance, it rewards intensity. And intensity, without protection, becomes a perfect climate for collapse. When an idol is praised for being larger than life, even pain becomes part of the brand, something to survive publicly, to prove strength, to keep the legend alive. The media lens adds another layer. It doesn't just report the fall, it packages it. It creates a narrative arc: downfall, redemption, downfall again. And the public learns to watch it like a series, forgetting that this isn't fiction. There's no reset button. There's only a person aging inside a story that demands the same drama forever. And when the myth keeps winning attention, it becomes harder for anyone, inside the circle or outside it, to choose the boring option that saves lives. Boundaries, distance, silence, real care. What makes Maradona's journey so haunting is that the world never stopped needing him to be Maradona. Not just talented, mythic. Not just loved, worshipped. That kind of devotion can feel like honor, but it can also feel like obligation with no end date. The cycle leaves scars on legacy. People remember the genius, but they also remember the turbulence. They argue about the man because the symbol was too big to fit neatly into one story. And that argument reveals something uncomfortable. When a public figure becomes a mirror for a nation's pride, their decline can feel personal to everyone watching. That creates more obsession, more judgment, more noise. In the background, the question keeps returning. Who benefits when the idol stays on the ride? The crowd gets emotion. The media gets content. The inner circle gets access. The brands get visibility. And the idol, often, gets less and less of what actually matters: stability, privacy, a life that isn't constantly being consumed. This isn't about blaming one person or one audience. It's about exposing the structure. Unlimited access plus unlimited worship equals unlimited risk. Without firm limits, the hero becomes both the product and the prisoner. And by the time the world starts asking for the human again, it often asks too late. After years of treating the human as secondary to the legend, Maradona's story lands like a warning. The problem isn't only addiction or excess. It's the combination of idol worship, unlimited access, and the absence of boundaries. The world loves building myths, but rarely knows how to care for the human behind the myth once the cameras move on. The moral is simple and heavy. When someone becomes a symbol for millions, the pressure to stay symbolic can destroy the person. Worship turns into demand. Demand turns into permission without limits. And permission without limits becomes a prison. Now I want your take. Do you think the biggest force in stories like this is the individual's choices, the people surrounding the idol, or the audience and media that keep rewarding the roller coaster? Write your answer in the comments. I read them all. If you want more documentary-style episodes about the hidden side of fame, power, and celebrity mythology, subscribe and turn on notifications. And here's the question to carry into the next video. How many other Maradonas are out there right now, praised as miracles, while quietly losing the right to be human?